When I was delivering food, I ran into Tiffany Stone at the hospital getting an abortion. I even overheard her friend mocking me. He's foolishly delivering food to save money for my treatment, and he hasn't even noticed I am pregnant with someone else's child after her abortion. She hypocritically suggested we get married, but when I saw through her lies, she actually stole and froze my sperm to fake a pregnancy and extort money from me. I immediately blocked her and publicly exposed her true colors at the marriage registry office. Finally, as she was being incarcerated, she cried out, "I won't accept this." Tiffany Stone suffered from severe depression. To earn money for her treatment, she became a pseudo-spiritual influencer at a wellness center for 20 days each month. She would go to the wellness center to attend a wellness retreat and post photos of herself as a spiritual socialite on her social media posts. It wasn't until I crashed my electric scooter due to speeding while delivering food and ended up in the hospital that I unexpectedly found her there for an abortion. Her friend signed the abortion consent form for her, Tiffany, faking depression and using the pseudo-spiritual influencer facade to manipulate Mr. Marcus out there, while Ethan is delivering food day and night to save money for your treatment. Aren't you afraid he'll find out the truth and break up with you? Tiffany Stone scoffed, "Don't worry, I've been very careful all these years. As long as you don't say anything, he won't know. Look, I am pregnant with another man's child, and he hasn't even noticed. Even if he finds out, it doesn't matter, he loves me so much, he wouldn't leave me. Besides, after the abortion, I plan to stop being a pseudo-spiritual influencer. I'll marry him and stay by his side from then on." I clutched my bleeding head, feeling as though I was completely submerged in cold despair. After being discharged from the hospital, I called a number I hadn't contacted in 3 years. "Mrs. Miller, you were right, she was faking it. I've decided to agree to the arranged marriage. Well, get married in 5 days. Are you blind? Don't you look where you're going?" I had been walking away with my head down, not wanting Tiffany Stone to see me, but she suddenly turned back and bumped right into me. Hearing her familiar voice, my heart tightened. Just last night, that same voice had tenderly comforted me, promising to marry me and have 10 children once her illness was cured. But now, she was here at the hospital, aborting another man's illegitimate child. I lowered my head even further, tightly covering it with a thick towel, but Tiffany Stone still recognized me. "Ethan Miller, what are you doing here? What happened to you?" Immediately, a flicker of panic crossed her eyes, and she asked with an unnatural expression, "Have you been standing here the whole time?" In the past, if I had known she cheated and was pregnant with another man's child, I would have had a hysterical fight with her. But now, I just wanted to leave quietly, and no longer entangle myself with such a vile woman. My expression quickly returned to normal, and I said faintly, "I just came up and ran into you. By the way, why are you here? Are you feeling unwell?" After I spoke, her face grew even more unnatural, and she stammered, "Not me, my friend isn't feeling well, I am accompanying her to the hospital." I need to accompany my friend for a minor procedure, so I can't stay with you." I saw the abortion consent form in her hand, and her name was clearly written in the patient's name section, but I didn't expose her. Instead, I smiled and nodded, "Then go ahead and take care of it." I left in a hurry, even though I had decided to leave her. Facing her still made my heart ache in waves. She was the woman I had loved wholeheartedly for 5 years. I thought we were deeply in love, but it turned out to be nothing but a joke. Tiffany Stone suddenly called out to me, her voice filled with guilt, "Ethan Miller, you won't have to work so hard anymore. I think my illness has gotten much better, and I don't need so much money for treatment. Valentine's Day is in 5 days. Let's get married then." My eyes stug, and tears almost fell. I had suggested getting married countless times before, but Tiffany Stone always refused, claiming her illness hadn't recovered. But at this moment, I felt no joy, only profound heartache. By the time I left the hospital, 2 hours had passed. As I was riding my electric scooter out of the hospital gate, I heard an urgent honk from behind. Feeling that the car behind me had already brushed against my spot, I quickly pulled over to the side of the road to make way. I was feeling incredibly upset and tired today. I didn't want to argue over this minor fender bender, nor did I want to pursue any consequences. But the car behind me also stopped, the door opened, and an aggressive man stepped out of the driver's seat. He cursed loudly. "You, a food delivery guy on a broken electric scooter, have the nerve to block my car. Tell me, how do you plan to compensate me for scratching my luxury car?" But he was the one who had hit me, and though I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, he blamed me instead. I suppressed my anger and said coldly, "First, I wasn't violating any rules. Second, you hit me, so you're the one who should pay, but I don't have the energy to make a big deal out of it today. Just leave." But the next second, a fist swung towards my face. I instinctively dodged. But due to my head injury, my reaction was a step slow. The man's fist struck my face hard, and a metallic taste filled my mouth. The wound that had just been stitched split open again, and I felt warm, wet blood flowing out. Damn it. A pauper daring to provoke me. Do you know how much my car cost? I am telling you, this isn't over today. At that moment, a woman got out of the passenger seat. Darling, don't argue with a pauper. He couldn't afford it even if he sold everything he owns. She just had an abortion and is in a lot of pain. Didn't you say you'd take her to the jewelry store right now to buy jewelry? The man, however, seemed not to hear. He picked up his phone and walked aside to make a call. Tiffany Stone then looked my way. Our eyes met, and she clearly froze. She explained weakly, "Ethan, don't misunderstand. It's not what you think. The child was actually yours. I just wanted to use this as an excuse to trick him into giving me money. I didn't want you to work so hard to earn money for my treatment anymore." I sneered, mocking her. "If there's really nothing between you and him, then why would you try to pin the child on him?" Her eyes instantly reddened, and she tearfully pleaded, "It was just that one time with him. I drank too much that day, right after that day, I found out I was pregnant with your child, and that's when I thought of going along with it. Ethan, once I get this money, we'll live a good life together. I am doing this for our future, you have to believe me." She rushed forward, trying to grab my hand, but I pulled away. "He's looking over here." Tiffany Stone stood still, no longer tugging at me, and looked at me with pleading eyes. "Ethan, you won't blame me, right? It's all because of my illness, otherwise, we would have been married long ago. I promise, I'll get the money within 5 days, and then we'll go get married. You must wait for me." After speaking, she walked towards the man, leaned intimately into his arms, and said something I couldn't hear. Finally, the man decided not to bother me anymore. He cursed, "What a nuisance," and drove off. By the time I rode my scooter home, it was already dark. Tiffany Stone hadn't returned. Just as I lay down, my phone chimed with a new message. "Temporary class at the wellness retreat. I'll be back late. Go to sleep. Don't wait for me." I used to receive messages like this often, thinking she was genuinely attending a wellness retreat, but now I understood that she was just messing around with other men. Before, I would always remind her not to overwork herself, and offer to pick her up, but each time, she would say that the pseudo-spiritual influencers in her class had cars, and she could hitch a ride back. This time, I didn't reply at all. Anyway, I was about to leave her, and she didn't need my concern. I forced a bitter smile. Just as I put down my phone, Tiffany Stone's call came in. She questioned me with a dissatisfied tone. "Why didn't you offer to pick me up this time? Aren't you worried about me at all? Are you still mad at me? I've already explained that I just wanted to get the money. Do you have to make a big deal out of that one drunken one-night stand? I love you, my heart is full of only you, isn't that enough? If you keep acting so unreasonable, I'll really get angry and won't go get married with you." I clenched my fist, my knuckles white. "Then let's not get married." I hung up and turned off my phone. Perhaps due to my wound, and the cold wind on the way back, I developed a high fever that night. In a daze, I thought I saw Tiffany Stone from when we first met. She was young and pure, standing in the sunlight, looking at me playfully and smiling, saying to me in the sweetest voice in the world, "Ethan, if I marry you, and become your bride someday, will you be overjoyed?" At that moment, I struggled to open my eyes. I pushed myself up, sitting in the pitch darkness, unsure if it was a dream or reality. Half asleep, half awake, I heard the sound of the door opening. A moment later, a cool hand rested on my forehead. "Ethan, are you running a fever? I'll find some medicine for you." In an instant, tears streamed down my face. This wasn't a dream, but Tiffany Stone hadn't cared for me in a long time. I immersed myself in this long-lost tenderness, unwilling to break it. She fed me medicine, then sat by my bed. Before, whenever she made me angry, she would sit by the bed and coax me. It wasn't until I pulled her up from the cold floor that she would break into a smile, and we would reconcile. Now, she sat on the cold floor just like before, repeating the same words from earlier in the day. The wound was reopened, and my heart grew colder and colder. I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. Just then, her phone screen lit up in the dark. It was a message from that man. I still can't accept that you had an abortion. I am so miserable I want to die. Will you come see me one last time? Tiffany Stone hesitated only for a moment, then spoke with cold, damaging words. Ethan, I know this upset you, but he's also a depression sufferer. If I don't go now, he really might die. Give me a few days to handle this, and then I'll come back with the money and get married with you, okay? I sat in the darkness, and after a moment, I shook my head and said, no, but her figure was already gone from the room. She had left to find that man as soon as she finished speaking. I wiped away the cold tears on my face, my heart utterly broken. Tiffany Stone didn't return for several days, but she had the restaurant downstairs send me meals every day, 3 meals a day, not missing a single one, but I didn't eat a single bite, throwing them all into the trash can. During the days she was away, I packed all my belongings. This apartment was rented, and the rent was earned from my work. The lease was due in a month, and I told the landlord I wouldn't renew it. The room had been meticulously decorated by Tiffany Stone in her favorite rustic style. She had transformed the small balcony into a cozy nook, naming it Cozy Nook. She used to love lying in the cozy nook with me at night, gazing at the stars and dreaming of our future. But later, she started frequently attending wellness retreats at the wellness center, and hadn't watched the stars with me in the cozy nook for a long time. I stood before the cozy nook, and saw that the heart-shaped string lights hanging above it were broken and no longer lit up. The string lights casing cracked from sun exposure, just like my relationship with Tiffany Stone. It was broken. I sighed silently, without a trace of nostalgia, and began to dismantle the cozy nook. The balcony returned to its original empty state. I cleaned out everything in the room that was related to me. There was no longer any trace of my life here. After finishing, I dragged my suitcase straight to the marriage registry office. Before I even reached the marriage registry office entrance, Tiffany Stone called me on my phone. Ethan Miller, all your things are gone. And our cozy nook is gone too. What do you mean? Are you still mad at me? You keep saying you love me, but now you're making a big deal out of even such a small thing. Today is the day we're supposed to get married. I am giving you 30 minutes to get to the marriage registry office and wait for me, otherwise, I am really breaking up with you. Before, if she really threw a tantrum and threatened to break up, I would quickly beg and plead with her. No matter who was right or wrong, I would apologize first. But now, I wouldn't coax her anymore. I was about to get married to someone else. I replied coldly, fine, we're breaking up. I hung up and blocked all her contact information. When I arrived at the marriage registry office entrance, it was 15 minutes before the agreed time, and my arranged marriage partner hadn't arrived yet. As I stood waiting at the entrance, Tiffany Stone appeared before me. A triumphant look was on her face, and she said disdainfully, I knew you'd come. You love me so much, how could you give up the chance to get married to me? But you have to grovel on your knees first until I forgive you, only then can we get married, I scoffed, stating coldly, if I recall correctly, we've already broken up, and why would you think I'd want a woman who betrayed me and got pregnant with an illegitimate child? Tiffany Stone's eyes reddened with anger, and she looked at me in disbelief. How can you say that about me? Didn't you love me the most? I just made a small mistake that any woman could make. Besides, I've already had an abortion. Do you have to keep bringing it up? I frowned, looking at her with exasperation. She laughed contemptuously. Ethan Miller, you say you don't want to marry me, but you still came to the marriage registry office to wait for me, didn't you? Just then, a voice came from behind her. Who said he came to the marriage registry office to wait for you? Tiffany Stone turned around and looked at the dazzlingly dressed Caroline Hayes before her. Her eyes filled with jealousy, and she couldn't help but walk over and frown, saying, what does my business with my boyfriend have to do with you? He dressed so provocatively, aren't you just trying to seduce men? After speaking, she sneered. Caroline Hayes took off her sunglasses and gave her a cold look. Then she walked over and intimately linked her arm through mine, saying, Ethan Miller, you made me wait for years for this annoying pest. Just wait until I get home, I'll deal with you. Then she giggled and pinched me, her eyes showing a hint of playful annoyance. Tiffany Stone watched our interaction in utter shock. She immediately approached with a scowl and pulled Caroline Hayes aside. Then she intimately wrapped her arm around mine, declaring her claim to Caroline Hayes. Get away from him. Ethan Miller is my boyfriend. Don't go flaunting yourself and throwing yourself at every man you see. Caroline Hayes was pushed aside and almost fell down the steps. I quickly reached out and steadied her. Caroline Hayes, still shaken, patted her chest, then she glared at me and said, I misspoke. I thought she was just an idiot, but it turns out she's a malicious idiot. I smiled at Caroline Hayes. After so many years, she was still the same strong-willed and principled young lady who wouldn't tolerate any disrespect. Tiffany Stone watched our interaction and immediately walked up to me, saying in a low voice, Ethan Miller, how dare you betray me? Tell me honestly, who is this woman? I'll kill her. As she spoke, her eyes remained fixed on Caroline Hayes. I looked at her, and with an impatient sneer, said, Tiffany Stone, are you done yet? We've already broken up. Get lost and don't delay me and my fiancé from getting married. With that, I tightly gripped Caroline Hayes' hand. Since I had decided to marry Caroline Hayes, I had the duty and responsibility to protect her. From the very beginning, when I learned about the arranged marriage, she never caused any trouble. Even when I told Mrs. Miller I wanted to leave home, she never targeted Caroline Hayes. Such a kind girl shouldn't be insulted by Tiffany Stone. But unexpectedly, when Tiffany Stone heard my words, she became like a lit firecracker. She abruptly broke our tightly clasped hands. Then she looked at Caroline Hayes with jealousy and said, You gold digger, why are you bothering my boyfriend instead of those wealthy men? He's going to get married to me. The other woman, the third party interfering in our relationship. Tiffany Stone's body trembled as she spoke, and her voice was exceptionally harsh, attracting many onlookers. Many people heard her words and immediately eyed Caroline Hayes with ill intent, saying, Hey beautiful, I am richer than this pauper. Want to have some fun with me? I can give you tens of thousands. Beautiful, name your price. How much for one night? Tiffany Stone immediately scoffed upon hearing this. You little tramp, hurry up and make some money. Your outfit isn't cheap. Sleeping with anyone is still sleeping. Don't let money pass you by. Caroline Hayes looked at Tiffany Stone with a cold expression and said, Shut up. Don't assume that just because you make money that way, everyone else is as dirty as you are. Caroline Hayes' chest heaved with anger. She came from a prominent family and had never been humiliated like this before. Seeing her reaction, Tiffany Stone immediately smiled triumphantly and said, You've been exposed, gold digger. I don't care how you deceive other men. Ethan Miller is my husband. So get up, don't interfere with us getting married. After speaking, she looked at me and tried to pull me inside. I glanced at her, annoyed. I was now filled with regret for having chosen such a classless person. I had already told her we were breaking up, but she was acting as if nothing happened. Still grinning and wanting to get married with me, I looked at Caroline Hayes apologetically and said softly, Caroline, this is my fault. I am afraid we can't get married today. Please go home first. Once I've sorted out all this mess, I'll personally come to pick you up. Caroline Hayes smiled. She cast a contemptuous glance at Tiffany Stone, then comforted me, saying, Okay, I'll wait for you. Take your time, and don't stoop to certain people's level. With that, she walked down the stairs, carrying her latest Hermes bag. Tiffany Stone was immediately displeased. When she heard her words, she pouted, spat, and then roared, Don't go. Tell me, who are certain people? I think you're the one who should get lost, you interfering the other woman. Listening to Tiffany Stone's wild rant, I stepped back 2 paces in disgust and said in a low voice, Enough. Shut up. Are you ever going to stop? Don't push your luck. Tiffany Stone flinched, startled by my angry shout, as I had never spoken to her so loudly before. Thus, Tiffany Stone looked at me aggrievedly, and gently tugged at my clothes, saying, All right, you've yelled at me several times today, let's hurry and get married, or the staff will be leaving soon. With that, she grinned and pulled me, trying to walk inside. Seeing her stubbornness, I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. Tiffany Stone froze in disbelief, holding the red, swollen spot where I had slapped her, and yelled loudly, Ethan Miller, you hit me for the other woman. Have I been too good to you? If this is how it is, then let's not get married. With that, she turned and walked down the steps. Seeing her leave, I let out a sigh of relief and also walked quickly down the stairs. A Maybach was waiting for me outside the marriage registry office. I got straight into the car and told the driver to go home. All these years I had been with Tiffany Stone, I never returned home, fearing that Mrs. Miller would target Tiffany Stone, but now, it seemed everything I did was worthless. Tiffany Stone was left behind. She watched me get into the luxurious Maybach without looking back, then rushed over, asking in disbelief, "Ethan Miller, is that your car?" Seeing her surprised expression, I coldly hummed in affirmation. Tiffany Stone's face suddenly lit up with excitement. She looked at me flatteringly and said, "Why didn't you tell me this was your car earlier? Let's hurry and get married. I was just messing with you." I looked at her covetous eyes and sneered, "Tiffany Stone, how could I ever fall for such a disgusting woman like you? Truly nauseating. That apartment's lease is up in a month. When it expires, you get out, and we'll be completely done. If you dare to bother me again, I won't hesitate to show you what I am capable of." With that, I left the marriage registry office without looking back. Back home, I saw Mrs. Miller applying a face mask. I cautiously said, "Mrs. Miller, I am back." Mrs. Miller snorted, peeled off her face mask, casually tossed it into the trash, then swept her eyes over me indifferently, saying, "HMPH. So you decided to come back. I heard you let Caroline Hayes suffer today because of that vile woman. Are you trying to go behind my back again?" Hearing Mrs. Miller's words, I immediately shook my head in a panic. "Mrs. Miller, today was an accident. I've already spoken with Caroline Hayes. Once I've dealt with Tiffany Stone, I'll personally go pick her up." Mrs. Miller's expression softened into a smile after hearing my promise. She glanced at me and said, "Then don't delay any longer. Why should a perfectly good young lady keep waiting for you? Not some hot commodity." I immediately nodded at Mrs. Miller's words. Caroline Hayes had waited for me for so many years. Honestly, I was touched. Now that I had decided to marry her, I had to seize the opportunity. Otherwise, if she became disappointed and married just anyone, I'd have nowhere to cry. Soon, I returned to my bedroom and comfortably lay on my latex mattress for a nap, looking at the spacious and bright room. The more I thought about it, the more I felt like an idiot. Why did I choose to suffer hardships with Tiffany Stone? WhatsApp, each one a 60-second voice message. I didn't have the patience to listen to them all, so I clicked on the voice-to-text transcription after reading them. I sneered inwardly. Tiffany Stone was really quick. In just a few hours, she had figured out my and Caroline Hayes' identities. She truly was a professional gold digger, with so many channels for information. Seeing a long string of her repentant voice messages, I immediately blocked all her contact methods. Then I called up an old friend, Blake Dawson, a true playboy. Blake Dawson soon arrived at my home. He even teased me when he saw me back. "So you finally decided to leave that annoying pest at your home? If you ask me, he blind for not cherishing a beauty like Caroline Hayes." I scoffed at his words and laid out my entire plan. Blake Dawson had long been interested in Tiffany Stone, but he had held back out of respect for me. Now that Tiffany Stone had found out my true identity, and knew my family was incredibly wealthy, she certainly wouldn't give up easily, although I wasn't afraid of her. If she came to my home, or the Hayes family residence to throw a huge scene, both our families would have a real problem on our hands. Blake Dawson nodded immediately after hearing my plan, even appearing eager to rush out. Seeing his impatience, I took him to a nearby wellness retreat at a wellness center. Sure enough, as soon as I entered, I saw Tiffany Stone not far away, straddling a man and constantly moving her hips. The thought of me working myself to death to support her, while she was here throwing herself at other men, made me sick to my stomach. Blake Dawson looked at her provocative display, his breathing quickening, and he walked straight in and joined the wellness retreat. After the day's wellness retreat course ended, Tiffany Stone and Blake Dawson had already added each other as friends, but she didn't bother talking much with Blake Dawson. She rushed to my home, ready to beg me to reconcile. I had just finished packing, and was about to leave to help Caroline Hayes choose her wedding dress for the wedding, when I saw Tiffany Stone. I couldn't help but frown, and say, "What are you doing here? We've already broken up, don't come looking for me anymore." Tiffany Stone touched her stomach, and said aggrievedly, "Ethan Miller, I had the fertilized egg implanted yesterday. I am now pregnant with your child." I listened to her words, my eyes wide with shock. Why did I understand every word, but not the sentence when they were put together? Seeing that I didn't believe her, Tiffany Stone directly handed me a paternity report. I saw fertilized egg implantation confirmation written on it, along with Tiffany Stone's own signature. What on earth was going on? If Caroline Hayes found out I had a child now, my relationship with her would surely be over. A girl like her wouldn't tolerate sharing a man with another woman. So I quickly stepped forward, grabbed Tiffany Stone's neck, and said in a low voice, "What nonsense are you talking about? I haven't touched you at all." With that, my hand tightened. Tiffany Stone's face gradually turned purple. She struggled to squeeze out 2 words from her throat. "I secretly froze your sperm before." Hearing this, I frowned and my hand relaxed weakly. When Tiffany Stone and I were together, I did use a condom. I didn't expect her to find a loophole, but why on earth would she preserve my sperm? Under my persistent questioning, Tiffany Stone finally revealed the truth. It turned out that she had met a Mr. Davis at the wellness retreat. Mr. Davis was already frail and had been promiscuous. He had announced that whoever could bear him a child would receive 40% of his assets, so Tiffany Stone was tempted to increase her chances of conception. She and Mr. Davis were intimate, using a condom, and then she would extract good genes from it. At that time, I was full of vigor, so after I slept with her, she conveniently froze my good genes too. This was in case I discovered her illicit activities at the wellness retreat. She could then use the child to control me, and make me continue earning money for her. I almost laughed at her words, amazed that Tiffany Stone, despite her physical attributes, actually had some brains. Without Caroline Hayes, I might really have been at her mercy. Unfortunately, the only woman I wanted now was Caroline Hayes. Therefore, I looked at Tiffany Stone and said, "How much money do you want to have an abortion?" Seeing that I was willing to negotiate, Tiffany Stone immediately smiled triumphantly and said, "Ethan Miller, I wanted to have your child because I love you. Don't talk about money." I saw that although she claimed not to care about money, her eyes kept darting around the opulent decorations in my home, so I impatiently pulled a check from my pocket and handed it to her. It was for $100,000, enough for her abortion. Tiffany Stone took the cash, glanced at it, and seeing it was $100,000, she scoffed, "Is this an insulting amount?" I hadn't expected $100,000 not to be enough for her, so I sternly looked at her and said, "If $100,000 isn't enough, then don't take anything." With that, I tore up the check. Then I had my bodyguards take Tiffany Stone to the private clinic owned by my family. When she woke up, the child in her womb was gone. Tiffany Stone sat on the hospital bed, looking at me with hatred, and said, "Ethan Miller, you murderer. How dare you take away my child?" I scoffed at her words and said, "Tiffany Stone, your words are too ridiculous. Don't you know how this child came about? I have an intimate video of you. Go back quietly, and we'll go our separate ways. If you don't behave, and this video gets out, all your family and friends will have a difficult time. You consider the consequences." With that, I left without looking back. Tiffany Stone cursed loudly behind me, but I didn't care anymore. Tiffany Stone was a smart person. I knew what she would choose. Back home, a young nurse from the hospital reported to me that Tiffany Stone had calmed down after everything that had happened. She also knew that a relationship between us was impossible, so the fertilized egg implantation was just a test. Now that she had thought things through, she was diligently eating her post-op recovery meals, making her body slender and trim. When she was discharged from the hospital, no one around her knew she had come for an abortion. The first thing Tiffany Stone did after leaving the hospital was to go out to eat with Blake Dawson. They weren't really close, but both had their own ulterior motives, so that night they were intimate. The next morning, Blake Dawson emerged from the hotel humming happily. Seeing his triumphant look, I immediately reminded him, "Don't let Tiffany Stone fool you, she's not to be trifled with." Blake Dawson smiled and said, "Don't worry, I've slept with so many women who would dare to make a scene with me. I've seen plenty of gold diggers like her. A little money is enough to satisfy them. Let me sleep with her a few more times before you make your move. She's shamelessly seductive under the guise of being a pseudo-spiritual influencer. I just can't help myself." I nodded at Blake Dawson's words and said, "Then make sure you know what you're doing. Don't mess up my plan." Soon, Blake Dawson and Tiffany Stone were living together, and she even moved into Blake Dawson's apartment. Seeing that she was completely with Blake Dawson, I immediately rushed to the family estate to pick up Caroline Hayes and get married. The moment I received the marriage certificate, our two companies reposted our social media posts, sending congratulatory messages. Tiffany Stone was furious with jealousy when she saw the news. She immediately called Blake Dawson. Blake Dawson was the closest wealthy man in our circle she had managed to latch onto, so now, she was utterly unwilling to accept my powerful union with Caroline Hayes. Blake Dawson had completely gotten Tiffany Stone, and he had lost interest in her. So Blake Dawson had someone throw out Tiffany Stone's belongings and wasn't going to give her any money. Tiffany Stone was still dreaming of being a rich wife. Suddenly, seeing her belongings scattered everywhere, she yelled furiously, "Blake Dawson, Ethan Miller, I won't let you get away with this." I smiled at the video sent by the private investigator and said, "Keep an eye on her, I want to see how far she'll go." Not long after, Tiffany Stone took her intimate video with Blake Dawson to the Dawson family estate to threaten them. But Blake Dawson was just a playboy in their circle. Every year, many people tried to blackmail their way into wealthy families with children or videos. The Dawson family estate didn't take her seriously at all, and simply had their servants kick her out of the home. Furious, she called Blake Dawson directly, but Blake Dawson was now infatuated with a new young model, and had long forgotten all about her. I had already married Caroline Hayes, and I had merged our two companies. Caroline Hayes and I each held 50% of the shares. As my life improved, Tiffany Stone became consumed by jealousy, but now she had lost her ticket into high society, and the only place she could get close to wealthy people was that wellness retreat, to successfully marry into a wealthy family. This time she set her sights on a 70-year-old Mr. Davis. To seduce Mr. Davis, she wore revealing clothes and was intimate with him in the back room. To conceive Mr. Davis' child, she even gave him a powerful stimulant. After taking it, Mr. Davis quickly became full of vigor. Just as he was about to reach climax, his body suddenly began to convulse uncontrollably. Tiffany Stone's pleasure was interrupted, and she immediately opened her eyes to look. To her shock, Mr. Davis was already frothing at the mouth and had fallen off her. Tiffany Stone screamed, pulling the covers around her. A young monk quickly walked in and was startled by everything he saw. Not long after, Mr. Davis' 4 sons arrived. They had all been planning to seize his entire fortune, but now that Mr. Davis had died so suddenly, they had no choice but to divide it equally with their brothers. So, one of them grabbed Tiffany Stone and slapped her hard across the face several times. Then another brother saw the black packaging of the drug on the floor and immediately told the police to take it for investigation. After the police investigation, only Tiffany Stone's fingerprints were found on the black packaging of the drug, and the police also found purchase records on her phone. Therefore, the police initially determined that Tiffany Stone had given Mr. Davis the stimulant, causing him to suffer a fatal heart attack during sex. At the strong insistence of Mr. Davis' 4 sons, Tiffany Stone was ultimately sentenced to 10 years imprisonment for negligent homicide. The moment the police put her in prison, she felt disoriented, realizing that all her scheming had amounted to nothing. Unfortunately, the police would not show her any sympathy. All that awaited her was over a decade of prison life. When I learned Tiffany Stone was imprisoned, I was at the hospital with Caroline Hayes for her checkup. The doctor said that because it was still early, the ultrasound couldn't detect anything, but the HCG had already confirmed that Caroline Hayes was pregnant. I smiled with satisfaction. After all, as soon as our wedding was over, I couldn't wait to spend the wedding night with Caroline Hayes. With so many days and nights of my diligent efforts in conceiving, it was bound to have been successfully conceived. When Caroline Hayes heard the news of her pregnancy, she playfully punched my arm, blushing as she chastised, "You rascal, stop talking." I laughed, sweeping her into my arms, and kissed her beautiful face playfully. "What's wrong with that? My wife is pregnant with my child, and I want everyone to know. Caroline, you just focus on your pregnancy. Once you give birth to our son, it'll be my little queen." Caroline Hayes glanced at me. "So, if I don't have a child, I won't be your little queen?" I looked at her adorable expression, my heart melting, and quickly cajoled, "Yes, yes, yes. My little queen is absolutely right." After saying that, we interlocked our fingers and drove together towards our home. Feeling the wind whistle past my ears, my heart was overflowing with joy. Love was truly this wonderful.